start the recording. So yeah, for those of you that I have not met, which I have not met you, Lucy, or Queen and others, my name is Sierra, and I am the registered holistic nutritionist with Somerset Health and Wellness. And I'm also the breath coach that is going to be offering pranayamic breathing on the membership portal, the Community Sisterhood. So super exciting. Today's topic is going to be hormones and all the nutrition fun bits that come along with that. So what I thought would be fun is if, for those that haven't seen the meal plan that I've also shared, you could either pull that up or I'm going to show you on the screen today. And I feel like really going into hormone support and how we can really support ourselves with certain foods and nutrition, it's easy if we have something to kind of visualize and kind of put it in relation to why it's on a meal plan and why it's supportive for our hormones. So I'm going to share my screen here. Just so we can kind of all follow along. Let me see here, meal plan. Can everyone see the meal plan? Thumbs up, yeah, okay, awesome. So, okay, let me just, okay, so here on the meal plan, we have basically breakfast, snack, lunch, snack, dinner. So this is just a basic meal plan, but really what I'm going to dive into today is why all of these foods are really encouraging our ecosystem to thrive. And when I say ecosystem, I mean our human vessel of physical body. And why, when it comes to hormones, it's super important to learn about what foods are going to be super supportive, why they're supportive, and also food groups that maybe need to be a little bit more mindful of when we feel like we're imbalanced. So to begin off, I love to also explain a little bit more about what we eat is just as important as what we're actually absorbing. So I'm going to kind of dive into this in and out of what I'm going to be explaining here today. But yeah, starting off with the breakfast here. I mean, breakfast is so supportive for balancing our hormones, especially when it comes to female hormones. We want to make sure that we have blood sugar regulation. So that comes from a whole list of, making sure we have adequate protein and fibers in our diet. We also want to make sure that we're keeping, when it comes to fibers, insoluble fibers, resistant starches, soluble fibers. I'll kind of dive in and out of that a little bit today, but making sure that we're getting enough protein each meal and throughout our day is going to be super important. With the carrot cake chia seed pudding, so a fun thing about carrots, which I personally love, is they actually do contain a fiber that can help our body regulate and detox any sort of excess estrogen that comes from our body. So having raw carrot incorporated into a chia seed pudding, not only is going to be providing that assistance with supporting our hormones, but it also is paired with chia seeds, which is yet again a source of omega-3 fatty acids, which is super important also for our hormones. Having enough of this will help balance off the levels of like progesterone, estrogen, and also alleviating excess cortisol too from the body. Having this all tied together, I'm going to kind of dive into why chia seed puddings are so amazing, aside from just nutrition. But with chia seed puddings, having that omega, that protein, that raw carrot is really going to be supportive to curb off blood sugar dysfunctions as well. So I personally love chia seed puddings because they take about 10 minutes to prepare, and you have your fridge stocked for the rest of the week with breakfast ready to go. And I don't know about you, but sometimes breakfast, when you're just about to start your day or you just don't have tons of time, you want to make sure you have something that's not super time consuming to start off your day. So you already are boosting those cortisol stress hormones right off the bat. So getting set up, it takes 10 minutes. You got 4 days worth of meals in your fridge, great for breakfast or a snack if that's not something that you feel like you'd like to have for breakfast. But that's my personal thing about chia seed puddings, is they're super functional. And yet again, making sure we're supporting, not just when it comes to foods to support our hormones, but all the other aspects of life, meaning alleviating any kind of excess stressors from our life. So kind of understanding our schedule, understanding what's happening outside of just the kitchen, just the food part of hormones, to really start to bring those down. And making time efficient meals that are going to be supportive of hormones can be really fun and also nourishing and really easy to execute. So going into the berry beet smoothie bowl. So sometimes when people see beets, they're like, what? Smoothie? I don't know about that. That seems so weird. But the cool thing about beets is they contain nitrates, which gets converted in our body to nitric oxide. And the fun thing about that is nitric oxide actually helps the blood flow. And the thing about blood flow is the more blood flow we have, the more nutrients is going to get basically distributed to the rest of our body. It's going to help oxygen go in and out of all the parts of our body that is going to be distributing those nutrients, getting to our brain. It's going to help with cognitive function, immunity. I mean, all systems of our body get supported by enhancing our blood flow. So tying this in with mindfulness when we're consuming food, yet again, is also a great way to boost that blood flow. Taking a couple deep breaths. Well, I could probably do that right now. I feel like I'm speaking fast, but taking a few deep breaths before we dive into eating, tapping into that parasympathetic, just trying to enhance that blood flow, get those digestive enzymes going, really start to just become more mindful with each bite, can really help distribute those nutrients. And what you'll hear me mention a lot of today is I love the fact that we are what we eat, but we are what we absorb. And that is, at the end of the day, how can we optimize foods? So we're not just eating them, we're actually getting them from the foods, right? And that is what I love to really talk about is having these little ingredients such as beets incorporated in some meals, raw beets, can be great ways to enhance that blood flow, including pranayamic breath work as well, which I won't go into too much, but taking those breaths throughout the day, consciously thinking about what kind of energy we're putting when we're consuming meals will help lower cortisol levels, as well as also encourage that nutritional distribution to where it needs to go to balance our hormones. So snacks. Snacking is super important for many reasons. I don't love to say having snacks is like a meal replacement by any means, but oh, I hear some fuzzy noises here. 1 minute. I'm gonna mute you there. Sorry about that. I love snacking, yeah, not to have overconsumption of big size snacks, but having something that's going to be super satiating for our body, including protein, yet again, for that hormone support. And these protein packed deviled eggs are just incredible because not only are they super easy, you can stock your fridge with them to have snacks ready to go for the week, but making sure that we have enough protein in our diet, as I said, is super important for keeping ourselves supported hormonally and really just, sorry, things keep, for some reason, things are freezing here. Keeping ourselves supported and yeah, really maintaining a healthy body. So when it comes to having protein sources that I truly love to favor when it comes to hormone health is going to be, omega-3 sources. So we're looking at wild salmon. Tuna is a great source as well. Eggs are fantastic and they are filled with incredible healthy fats. There's been a lot of studies more so recently, which I can add into the comments on the sisterhood board for why having eggs in our diet can be super supportive for cortisol, high, not cortisol levels, cholesterol levels. That's the word there. Cholesterol levels, and having eggs throughout our meal can keep us curb those cravings and get through the day. So same with the avocado toast, having that blend, going into a tropical smoothie. So this is a great idea. It has papaya in the smoothie. So papaya is not a common ingredient. It's not local, but the thing about papaya that I personally really love is that it does contain an enzyme called papain, which is important for protein breakdowns. So yet again, circling back to that absorption, we could eat all these amazing foods, but are we really getting these nutrients we need to balance our hormones? Are we getting everything in our body? And that's why incorporating some of these little ingredients amongst our week can really be supportive for the big picture of getting to really starting to reconnect to ourselves and reground ourselves, whether it be an excess of something or thyroid, could be super important. So lunches, roasted sweet potatoes, Brussels sprout salads. I personally feel like having a lunch that's like quick, easy, simple, and in a bowl that's also very nourishing can be a great way to kind of have something throughout your week where you know you're getting lots of nutrients. So in this one in particular, roasted sweet potatoes are super grounding. I'm not too sure if everyone is familiar with Ayurveda, but in Ayurveda, which is basically the food of yoga, they align it with how our bodies respond. And what sweet potato tends to be classified as is a very grounding, a very hormonally supporting food. It has a little bit of sugars from the carbohydrates, but it has a healthy amount of fibers, and it also offers a beautiful, this is sweet potato, but this is yam. But I say that because it's orange. Sweet potatoes are white, but the orange in a yam is really, really rich in antioxidants. And that's the beautiful thing about having a variety of foods is we get the rainbow phytonutrients, those antioxidants, which helps fight off any sort of excess inflammation or sorry, I just saw the chat here. So I will answer all these questions too at the end. If anyone has questions, I'd love for you to pop them in the chat. That's a great idea. And just if you have questions, I'll go through them all at the end. But definitely keep that up because I love questions. And yeah, supporting ourselves with abundance of color can really help get that diversity. Yet again, instead of looking at one nutrient in particular, can we get that wide spectrum of different nutrients that are really going to support us? Brussels sprouts. So the cool thing about Brussels sprouts is they are classified as a cruciferous vegetable. Same with cabbage. We also got broccoli, cauliflower. Of course, if we're talking about guts and we're talking about something where maybe we have a little bit more of a sensitive gut, whether it be SIBO or something where we can't actually break down some of the sugars that are found in these, that I can kind of go over in the end. But cruciferous vegetables, they are super supportive for our detoxification pathways. And talking about why hormone support needs to have efficient detoxification pathways, meaning liver support. We're going to support our whole body of clearing any kind of impurities or toxins that we consciously and subconsciously come in contact with. So what that could be is like pollutions, you know, we're not intentionally trying to be exposed by this, but we are, and our bodies are incredibly resilient. And by supporting ourselves with a diet rich in supportive detoxification foods, we can really start to just combat and not have to worry so much about what we are being faced with. And that being said, you know, there's a lot of factors that we do consciously know that we're kind of becoming in contact with. Maybe that might be alcohol intake, or maybe it's diet choices, excess sugars, high cortisol levels and stress, which we have all been faced with at some point in our life or on the regular. And so having foods like this that have this compound that are found in them that help the liver support and cleanse itself on a regular basis is going to be super important, even more so than having, you know, twice a year detox, because if we're ongoing, our bodies become really adjusted to that. So yeah, another thing I'd love to share, and I'm not going to go through each food, but I do want to say a great way to start including some of these little odds, spices and herbs into our diets can be super great. They are not just that little additional thing that's in the pantry or that we kind of add a little bit into. We can start to use more herbs and spices on the regular to get tons of nutrients in our diet. So if we're going to talk about how to support ourselves and cleanse our body on a regular basis as well. Parsley is incredible for that. So thinking like tabbouleh salads or having parsley dressings for salads. The reason why I'm talking about this is on this halibut dish with the dill pesto, using different types of herbs and spices to have your sauce, and then making a very simple meal, whether it be rice, a protein of choice, and a side of arugula salad and zucchini. Having a sauce that is full of nutrients as well, or a pesto, something like that, that's where you can really maximize using those nutrients, but also not adding tons of time in the kitchen to slave away and make tons of different kind of meals. Sauerkraut skillet, yet again, sauerkraut, super amazing for probiotic health. It's also cabbage. So again, the cruciferous vegetables that helps us fight off everything there. Nori crisp. So sea minerals are amazing. I love sea minerals, and unfortunately, sea minerals are not a common thing that people tend to add in their diet, unless we go for sushi, and that is few and far. Sometimes, it might be something we do once a week, once a month, or a couple times a year. But sea minerals are super concentrated in something called iodine. And why iodine is so amazing is because our thyroid gland controls the metabolism of our entire being, basically our breathing, our weight, muscle strength, temperature, our menstrual cycle. It is so important. And so whether you are currently exploring something where you might have thyroid dysfunction of some sort, or you just want to keep your thyroid in really optimal working function, having iodine in the diet is very important. And because sea minerals are not something we commonly eat, it's fun to get to understand how we can incorporate more of them on a regular. So I'm going to talk about kombu. Kombu is basically a seaweed that you can find in most health stores. I know if we're all coming from Ottawa here, there's Urban Spice on Bank Street. They've got a great selection of sea minerals. But kombu can be added into stocks. It can be added into, it actually contains an enzyme that helps the breakdown of beans. So again, if it helps the breakdown and digestion of beans, then that means that we're going to absorb the nutrients from beans, which means they actually are doing us great health. Again, if we have some intolerances to beans, which some people do, you might experience some gassing or bloating. Again, incorporating kombu into the cooking process of beans can help actually that digestion process. So with this being said, yeah, kombu in stocks, adding nori sheets or dulse into shakers, making your own spices with toasted sesame seeds or toasted almonds, having these kind of creative outlets of how can you get more of them on the regular into your diet. Great snack, great way to boost that. Grapefruit, rich in vitamin C, antioxidant, super important. Again, kind of having as much variety of color is going to be a great way to support our hormones. So I want to talk here a little bit about chocolate, because who doesn't like chocolate? The good news is that chocolate is so rich in magnesium. And that is something I feel like if someone wants to make a chocolate bar and sell out, they should be talking about their magnesium content, because if magnesium is one of those more deficient minerals that are found amongst many of us, and boosting it, having it in our diet is not only going to provide us with a little bit of magnesium, it's going to provide that satiating feeling, help regulate our blood sugar levels without spiking glycemic index and glycemic load too much. So making sure that we have that strong relationship between our magnesium and thyroid production. They work really, really well together. Magnesium is a very important mineral to have for thyroid production and thyroid health. So increasing that, you can also get the sources from almonds. Almonds are a really great source of magnesium, so snacking on that throughout the day, and leafy greens. So keeping those leafy greens going, abundance of that. It does not mean you need to have salads. There's actually one salad on this entire meal plan. So like I said, having fun, innovative ways to get these kind of nutrients in your diet could be making a pesto sauce with half kale, half leafy green, and half herbs, boosting those nutrients somewhere just to tie them in. So aside from all this, I'm going to get off of this so we can see, stop the screen share. Okay, I think we're all back here. Yeah. So just to kind of clarify what I've just talked about and go over things a little bit further, it's so important to not only look at the foods and the nutrients that we're getting into our diet on a regular basis, but also what we're doing outside of the kitchen. So practicing mindfulness before we eat as well will not only encourage the lowering of cortisol levels, which will help alleviate stress, it'll allow our bodies to actually be receptive to extracting those nutrients and living a more high vibrational life. Another thing that also can really help for enhancing blood flow is we live in a society where we're hunched over. I mean, even now when I'm speaking, I'm engaged in a screen because that's just what we have done. But instead of being fearful of that, we can really start to just acknowledge the rolling of our shoulders back, opening up our chest, being more receptive. We're sending messages to our brain when we do that, when we're eating or when we're just sitting, that we're open. And what this says is it really grounds us for opening possibilities. It tells messages to our brain that we're relaxed. And when we're relaxed, our digestion is going to be improved. We're going to be able to have a little bit more pep in our step, meaning we're not going to feel as anxious as when we're hunched over. These are all signs of, the fetal position. But not only that, enhancing our blood flow, opening up that diaphragm, those lungs to that oxygen. Those are things that we're also able to incorporate to support our hormones. I feel like I've done a lot of talking, and I feel like I've done a lot of sharing as to ingredients and why that meal plan was set up the way it was. There's a few things I didn't mention about some medicinal superfoods like the schizandra berry, which is considered an adaptogen. I'd love to share more about that if it interests people, but if people have questions, anyone at the moment, I see that Lucy, you said you're concerned about the chia seeds because of SIBO. I feel like that's a fantastic question. And so chia seeds, because they're on the meal plan, and I think they're amazing and they're efficient and they're quick, if it's going to do you at this moment more harm and inflammation to the gut, then it's not needed or necessary. There's alternatives you can use if you feel like you're sensitive to chia seeds. I'll give you a few options here. You can do one where either the amount of chia seeds is lessened. You can omit chia seeds completely, and you can do overnight oats. So of course that may not be boosting directly the omega-3s, but circling back to we are what we absorb, if it's going to be having some sort of digestional disturbance, we want to make sure that we don't have those experiences. So what we are absorbing from the foods, we're still getting those nutrients from the carrots, beta carotene, and those detoxification pathways can be receptive for that. And also working with keeping the rotation of different kind of recipes. I hope that answered that question there. Did you have anything you wanted to elaborate on that with? And I can go from there.
Yeah. So with the SIBO, I love the meal plan, and every time I look at different meal plans, I'm always excited because I'm like, those food look amazing. However, with having a lot of inflammation, then it just becomes a lot more issues, because then it's either the oats, like I react to oats, I react to yeast intolerance, so at this point it seems like I'm reacting to so much. So as much as I want to support my hormones, it just makes it so difficult to try to find a balanced meal that's going to help me. So I'm not sure if I know it's like it needs to take time to heal itself, or maybe I'm just too impatient, but I'm like, this is ridiculous, where I find I just can't eat anything because there's an inflammation response that always comes about.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for sharing that. It's also important, like this meal plan here is not set up for someone who might be experiencing SIBO at the moment, in addition to wanting to balance hormones. This is more so just directly for hormone support. It does not mean that all these recipes cannot work for some individual, but if there's more of a further, something that you're personally exploring with your health, then there's always that way that we need to kind of navigate. Of course, we don't want to send our inflammation response to a higher point by eating certain foods, because again, everything is essentially going to be inflammation if it's having a negative effect, including, the bloating and gassing. We don't want that to be occurring while we're trying to fix something else, because we're not actually supporting our body that way. We got to work from our ecosystem, our stomach, our guts, outwards for a lot of things. So as long as we're breaking down the foods, we'll be absorbing them. So, I mean, I'm more than happy to carry on this conversation, Lucy, at another time as well, if you wanted to explore what your own personal health plan could look like, because there are absolutely foods and recipes and meal plans that are both supportive of SIBO, which is small intestinal bacteria overgrowth, and hormones. It just means that we need to tailor certain ingredients and certain recipe ratios just to suit that, so you don't have that inflammation response.
Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. Did anyone else have any questions? Was there anything in there that you thought was interesting that you wanted me to kind of expand on a little further, or personal questions about your own health that might come up with food? Okay, well,
I just want to say thank you. It was very informative, and I'm just kind of getting to a place where I want to put more emphasis on eating healthier, just being intentional about it. So it's going to require a lot of discipline from me, but I'm ready for this challenge.
Oh, I love that. Thank you so much for sharing that too, because what I love to also share is that it's the small steps that matter that make the big changes. And when we think about beautiful castles that have been built, it started by laying one brick, one stone. And so oftentimes when we think about health, it can be intimidating because we need to eat right and move the body and meditate. And really it's about incorporating a little bit each day that makes sense for you. And what that means is really understanding, that might just be this week aiming to get enough water in the diet, which will then distribute more nutrients. But consistently having that healthy pressure on yourself to make those small changes in a positive direction, at the end of the day, do have that really impactful goal that we tend to all aim for with health. And starting even with this meal plan, starting by maybe saying you're going to make one of the recipes and see how it goes. Taking it small bits at a time. But yeah, that's amazing. And I'm so happy to hear that you are interested in learning more about your health. It's such a great experience to go through and feel. And I want to just lastly say, I appreciate everyone so much for showing up today and being curious about their health and wanting to learn more about women's hormones and how we can support it through food and nutrition. And I'm sure we all came from the Community Somerset membership, but yeah, it's such a beautiful offering. We're going to be doing so many different things, all us practitioners, to offer and extend more of a wellness community and sense for people to have these resources. So I can't wait to continue to share, and I'll be doing pranayamic breathwork as well every 2 weeks. So if you're interested in seeing what that's about and encouraging that opening of the diaphragm and the chest and the blood flow, I'd love to have you join one of the sessions coming up. So on that note, I will leave you. And yeah, I'd encourage everyone to at least give one of the recipes a try. And I'll reach out to Lucy and have more of a direct conversation. But I appreciate everyone here for showing up today. I hope you have a great Thursday.
Thanks, Sierra. Bye.
Bye.